Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2238, The Curiosity Lens. This is episode 2 of our Everyday Wonders, volume 21, Everyday Wonders, episode 2, The Curiosity Lenses. Curiosity, yes. Curiosity is the key that unlocks hidden beauty in everyday life. When we look at it through the world, through a lens of wonder and ask, what's here to notice? We begin to see things differently. Curiosity invites us to pause, lean in, and discover what we might otherwise overlook. How many times have you gone out walking, you're going for a and then you're talking to somebody else, oh, did you see the birds that were out there the other day, whatever they were. And you're like, no, and it's because you had your blinders on. You weren't opening. You didn't have your curiosity lens open. I've done that many times. But challenge yourself to go out and take pictures of flowers, of things. It could be the way the twig is laying on the ground on top of the stones. It could be a blade of grass. You found the blade of grass interesting. You found a root coming out of the ground by the tree, the shape of it interesting. There's a couple of trees down there that have very interesting like knots on them that sort of like spark the curiosity. You never know. There was, where were we? Hilton Head Island. We're on Hilton Head Island back in 2002, 2001. It's one of those. And we're out for a car ride, and all of a sudden I saw Brad. I said, stop. He goes, what do you mean? I said, park now. He's like, what? Why? And I said, no time to explain. Got to go do this really quick so we're not blocking the traffic. So I said, but park. So he parked. I got out of the car, ran across to the island in the middle of the road, and they had these really cool trees that were all different shapes, but they had these big like openings at the bottom of the trees. And I got back in the car, and he would go, what were you taking a picture of? And I go, oh, and I would give it a name. That's Mr. So-and-so's house. And he looked at me and go, and it was like some really weird name. I have it written down. I don't remember the name, but I have it written down. And he goes, Mr. Who? And I go, oh yeah, he's the tree goblin that lives in that tree. I just wanted to get a picture of the front of his house. And Brad was like, do crazy stuff like that. If you see something like that, stop, take pictures. Whatever sparks your curiosity, whatever sparks your imagination, whatever sparks your inspiration. It could be something as simple as a hole in a tree that you turn into a tree goblin's house. Maybe a squirrel lived in there. Who knows? But curiosity turns ordinary moments into opportunities for discovery. Asking questions shifts us from judgment to wonder. Curiosity creates openness and helps us see life with fresh eyes. When we practice curiosity, we cultivate gratitude and playfulness. Oh, yeah. He had many a time that week that we were on Hilton Head Island stopping the car so I could go take pictures and tell him whose house it was and all of that. I swear there's times that Brad, that I would come up with stuff and Brad would just look at me and go, he would just sit there and go, aha. He was trying to find words to describe what he had just heard, and all he could come up with was aha. He had several different types of aha. And every time he said, it's like if I made a meal and got creative in the kitchen, and he'd go, well, that's okay. And that wasn't the ahas. Sometimes I would go, oh, well, do you like this one? He's like, and I go, is that a good aha, a bad aha, a please don't make it again aha, an aha where you really liked it? And that was the same with it's okay. It's okay was his favorite saying. I go, well, is the okay where you really like something and you want me to make it again? Is it okay that, yeah, it's okay for now, but we could have it on the menu occasionally? Or is it the okay, please don't make that again? There were times when he needed some interpretations, and he had the same thing with the ahas as well. Yeah, he honestly didn't know what to do with me at times. What happens when you approach your day with what if and why not? It's like whenever I'm at like my masterminding group, I listen with the ears of, how can I make this work for my business, instead of, that's not related to my business, I'm shutting down. There are a lot of businesses where there are a lot of overlaps in things that you could do for your business. Would you do it the exact same way that, say, a real estate agent did something? Would you do that exact same way in your business? No, you may not. But you could ask the question, how can I make that work for my business? And then magic happens, and the subconscious goes to work to see if it can make it happen. And sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay, as long as you try. So your daily approach with what if and why not are an example of, how can I make that work for my business? You discover hidden stories in places, people, and even routines. Yes, that's what I love, genealogy. You find all sorts of stories tucked away in there, and then you bring them out and people are like, oh, I never knew that. You open space for connection by being genuinely interested. Show people that you are genuinely interested in the answer to the question you may ask them. Show that you're genuinely interested. Don't just ask a question for the sake of asking a question. Ask a question because you are genuinely interested in what they have to say. You move through challenges with a spirit of exploration instead of fear. And how can we carry forward? Ask one curious question a day of yourself, of others, or your surrounding. Notice small details you'd normally rush past. Allow curiosity to lead you into joy and surprise. Treat life as a series of invitations rather than obligations. Yes, very important. Yes, especially when you've got that curiosity lens on. There's lots of stuff you can uncover. Challenge yourself to go out each day and take 5 photographs of things that sparked your curiosity while you're out for a walk in the neighborhood. When you live with curiosity, you show others that wonder is never far away. It often takes one question, one pause, one glance through the curiosity lens to inspire others to look again at their own lives. My grandfather was great at sparking our curiosity. He loved to tell stories. Fortunately, I come from a line of storytellers, so he was one of my storytellers. But my grandfather would sit us kids on his lap or on the floor, depending on how big we were, the sizes and the ages and all that sort of stuff. But we'd always gather around him on the couch or on the floor on his lap. And he would tell us fairy tales. But the fairy tales didn't end with happily ever after. No, when Goldilocks ran away from the house with the 3 bears after they'd come home and discovered her sleeping in the baby bear's bed, she took off into the forest and got lost. And then she found this, that started to rain, so she found shelter inside this cave. And in this cave, she could see this little glimmer of light down the back there, so she walked towards it. And as she walked towards it, it got bigger and bigger. And then a whole new world opened up to her. He sparked our curiosity by the way he told the story. We didn't want him to stop. We wanted him to keep going with the story because we wanted to know where it ended. How was the story going to end? And I will tell you this, he never told the same story the same way. The fairy tale absolutely was told the traditional way. But when it got to being in they lived happily ever after, nope. Stop, rewind, cut that out. We're going on an adventure. That part, we never heard the same story twice. Never. He would make it up there on the spot. He was brilliant at it. Absolutely brilliant. Totally miss sitting and hearing his stories. If I was granted somebody I could go back and talk to in my family that has passed, there is a second great grandmother I have questions for. But I think my biggest thing would be bringing my grandfather back and having him tell a story. It was just such a precious time with him to hear those stories and just to see his imagination at work. He was a very gifted storyteller. He was brilliant. Okay, so we have 4 reflection questions for you. Number 1, what is something ordinary in your life that you can look at with new curiosity today? What do you have around, or some way you do something that you want to put the curiosity lens on today? When was the last time a question opened up a surprising perspective for you? That's a good one. Number 3, how can curiosity help you connect more deeply with others this week? And the final question for tonight is, what would change if you approached a challenge with curiosity instead of judgment? That's a good one. And our closing thought for this evening, curiosity is a gift. It shifts the ordinary into extraordinary and turns each moment into an adventure worth noticing. The more we lean into curiosity, the more alive life feels. And with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific.